Edel Gandhi.
Nou menm pa haïtien, lè nou fin grandi ti moun yo, nou ba yo éducation, yo jwen bon job, yo vin fonde fami yo. Ki sa ki ka arrive nan vie jou yo? Ti moun yo a paye bil pa yo, petit yo pral l'école, esko deja prepare enterrement? Pa kite ti moun yo nan problème, rele Kathleen Barreau nan 786 253 0211 pou ka edo prepare zafè enterrement. Pa kite petit yo ap chèche l'argent nan mes amis, rele Kathleen Barreau dans 786 253 0211 786 253 0211.
Each day, the cost of living is increasing. It is the same as funeral and cemetery costs. Pre-plan your arrangements today and save your family the stress of finding the money later. Finance your plan up to 7 years with low down payments and affordable monthly payments. To set up your appointment, call Kathleen Barreau at 786-253-0211. 786-253-0211. Afternoon, good Tuesday afternoon, bon mardi. You are welcome. You're listening, to Chat with Kat. I am your host, Kathleen Barreau. I am your host for the next 28 minutes. You are listening to WSRF 1580 99.5. You can listen to this on YouTube Live, or you could listen to it on Facebook on the radio stations WSRF 1580 AM 99.5 FM, the page, and you will see my lovely face on live. So again, you are listening to Chat with Kat. I'm your host for the next 28 minutes. I'm here to give you all the tea or all the information that you could use on the show. Before we get started, we're going to take just a little break, and you're going to hear Bello. Welcome back to Chat with Kat. You're listening to WSRF 1580 99.5 FM. I'm again your host, Kathleen Barreau. As you guys know, that I do work as a counselor or a pre-planning agent for Caballero Rivero. Moi travaille na Caballero Rivero as a conseiller. I assist families with their pre-planning arrangements, and I always like to give you some information on what your options are. I'm very big on options. So you don't feel like you're forced to just do something. So anyway, moving on with the show. As you know, I am an 80s baby. I was born in 1980, and I used to grow up watching 90210. What show is that? That used to come on Channel 7, and I used to watch it. And one of my favorite characters, believe it or not, was Brenda Walsh, who was played by Shannon Doherty. So recently, she passed away of stage 4 breast cancer. And something that I appreciated from her is that she mentioned while she was doing an interview that when she was doing her funeral arrangements, she had to be very realistic, being that she had stage 4 cancer. So what she did was she said to her family and friends, those that were extremely supportive towards what she was going through, hey, I'm going to go ahead and start planning my funeral, but there's some people I don't want to come to my funeral. And me, that always makes me get the wheels turning in my head. And I said, I want to talk about this because I've been working in this business for 4 years. I know that there's some people out there that, have worked at other funeral homes that have worked there for like 20 years, 10 years, 15, 25 years, but, I can only go based on my experience, and, I want to give you, again, your options. So I kind of agree with her about, not wanting to have just any old body at your funeral. As I mentioned last week on the show, I said I wanted to have a full, funeral and then cremated afterwards. But then I realized, what? I'm going to have a viewing first, with only private family members and friends who, supported me throughout my adult life. When you're kids, everyone is your friend. But then as you get older and you start to have your own ideas and your own personality, you kind of start to drift off and you start to have your circle. So it got me to wanting to give you guys your options in the event that if you want to do a funeral service and you just don't want to invite anybody because you might not like your family members, or you just don't want just anyone who may not have had any good intentions for you to come to your funeral. You have ways. There's options on what to do if you don't want, if you want a private ceremony. So let's get into it. So the first things first is when you're pre-planning, you want to definitely communicate, express to your family members, to your friends, hey, listen, I'm doing my pre-planning arrangements, and I don't want just anybody to come to my service. When you do that, your friends kind of get an understanding that, hey, this isn't what she wants. She doesn't just want anyone to come to her funeral. Let's go ahead and honor her wishes, because that's something that does come up when your loved one passes away. You're sitting at the table at the funeral home, and everyone wants to honor your wishes, and you've already told them ahead of time, hey, listen, I want a private service. I don't want just anyone to show up. Another way that you can protect your wishes is you could, use legal documentation to do that. You might want to put it in a will. A will just saying, maybe you have like a detailed list of family and friends, or maybe just family only, or maybe none of your family members. Because, just because we're born into our family doesn't mean, we like our family members, So you can include that in a will, saying who you want to be included in your homegoing celebration of life. The next one is you can control the invitations. When you are doing your funeral arrangements, a lot of times, it's usually public and everyone can show up, but this time around you can actually make it a private ceremony. You can make it a private ceremony by not letting anyone know, or not sharing where the location of the service will take place at, You could actually do a guest list of who you want at the service. It doesn't have to be, again, you don't have to open it up to the public. You can share that with, your family, your friends. Even when you're doing your pre-planning arrangements, that is something that you could put in your file for the funeral home, so they know that these were the people that you wanted to attend your funeral. You can actually give out invitations formally or informally. Some people actually will, send a text message or a flyer through text message, or they will, some people do on Facebook, where which I never seen that, but it's just an idea. On Facebook, you can invite, your family members can invite who they would like to attend the service without anybody knowing that this is a private service. And then also you can control the information that's given out. Let's say you do have a funeral service, but you don't want everyone to come to the cemetery or the reception. You could put on your obituary just the information for the funeral, and those who you have personally, and those who have been invited to your service, your family can relate or invite them to the burial service and the reception. The next thing that you could do is you could actually select a place, a venue, maybe not a church that they knew that you used to go to. Maybe you could do it, at the actual funeral home itself, or you could do it at an event space that no one would know of, because the information is not out there. And then you can actually hire security and someone at the door to control your guest list, so not everyone can just show up at your service. So by you doing that safeguards or whoever you would like to come to your service, and also you have someone there at the door to control who's allowed to come into your homegoing celebration, because again, it's all about you. It's not about everyone else, because you paid for the pre-planning arrangements. The next thing is you can actually you can designate someone to carry out your wishes. It could be a family member or a friend. Sometimes it's better to have a friend, because sometimes family can be persuaded by other family members to follow their wishes. So if you have like a friend that will honor and stick to your plan, stick to their guns, and upholding your final wishes, I would advise maybe use a friend instead of a family member. But again, it's up to you. That family member can ensure that whoever was invited on that guest list will be invited to your private homegoing celebration. Another thing is the funeral director. The funeral director actually is the person who makes everything happen. Once you pass away, the funeral director will go ahead and honor every single wish that was on your pre-need arrangements. They make notations when you're doing your pre-planning, like with someone like me. I would notate all the guests that you would want, and then once you pass away, they actually execute all of that and make sure that your family members, your friends, the ones that you would like to be there, are present at your homegoing celebration. The next thing is, again, you can do an invitation-only service, again, where only just the people that you like to be present at your service are there. One thing I want to say is that a lot of times with the funeral homes, they'll post on their websites the information about your funeral, where it's going to take place, the time, the location. If you want to give a flower arrangement, but this time around you can actually tell the funeral home, please do not post any of that information on your website to prevent anyone from knowing where your services are, and that the people that will know will actually come from your family members or that designated friend that you entrusted to carry out your final wishes. And another thing that you can also do that may not seem exactly comfortable is you can have a conversation with your family straight up and say, listen, I love you guys, but, I don't want you at my funeral because the last couple of years, it hasn't been very easy with us. We never really talked for the last couple of years. We don't really hang out. We don't have anything in common. Our children don't play together. We don't invite each other to family events, and just have a straight up honest conversation with these people, your family members, telling them, listen, I don't want you to come. It is a very uncomfortable topic, but hey, this is something that you're paying for. This is your last party. This is your last hurrah, and you should go out your way. And then last but not least, you should definitely consult an attorney to put it all in, legal form. So in the event that, some issue comes up, at least it's in writing, it's drafted by an attorney, and you can actually take this to court if this becomes an issue. And last but not least, I wanted to say, when you're doing your pre-planning arrangements, you can actually make a clause or within the arrangements that is irrevocable. What does irrevocable mean? Irrevocable means that nothing that you've chosen can be changed. It can't be modified. It can't be anything. What you say is law. What you said is set in stone. So that's another way that you could personalize and privatize your services by putting an irrevocable clause in your pre-need, so no one in your family, none of your friends can change anything out of it because it's set in stone. They can't change anything at all. So just to recap before we take a break, in the event that you are in a situation where you don't want, just anybody to come to your service, make sure you have a discussion with your closest family and friends so they can carry out this, your final wishes. Consult an attorney to see, what are your options are in having this in legal form. Also, you could put it in a will in case you don't want to go the attorney route, but it's good to consult an attorney. And also, you could entrust someone to be your executor or a representative that you appoint to manage your final wishes, to manage your affairs when that time comes. And last but not least, you can do a private event and add security where you do have a guest list in place where no one can just show up to your funeral if they're not invited. And make sure you stipulate that this is invitational only, and make sure you let your funeral home know that you do not want the information disclosed on the website. So we're going to take a little break. You're listening to Chat with Kat, and we'll see you in a little bit. Chat with Kat chaque mardi from 6 o'clock to 6:30 p.m. discussing finance, mortgage, assurance, funeral care sur WSRF 1580 AM and 99.5 FM avec Kathleen Barreau. Nous là pour connecter avec toutes les ressources financières qui aident à grandir.
Nou menm pa haïtien, le nou fin grandi ti moun nou yo, nou ba yo edukasyon, yo jwen bon job, yo vin fonde fami yo. Ki sa ki ka arrive nan vie jou yo? Ti moun nou yo a paye bil pa yo, petit yo pral l'école, esko deja prepare anteman ou? Pa kite ti moun nou yo nan problem, rele Kathleen Barreau nan 786 253 0211 pou ka edo prepare zafè anteman ou. Pa kite petit yo ap chèche l'argent nan mes amis, rele Kathleen Barreau dans 786 253 0211 786 253 0211.
Each day, the cost of living is increasing. It is the same as funeral and cemetery costs. Pre-plan your arrangements today and save your family the stress of finding the money later. Finance your plan up to 7 years with low down payments and affordable monthly payments. To set up your appointment, call Kathleen Barreau at 786-253-0211. 786-253-0211. With Kat, you're listening to WSRF 1580 AM, 99.5 FM. You can also tune in on Facebook through the radio station WSRF 1580, 99.5's FM's page, where you can see me live. We were just talking about in the first part of the show, star 90210's Shannon Doherty. She recently passed away from stage 4 cancer, and she told her family and friends that she didn't want certain people to come to her funeral. So she it made me think to, give you what your options are in the event that, if you should pass away and you do not wish to have just anyone show up at your funeral. So you probably are asking, well, what happens if I have my next of kin or, my family member come to the funeral and they decided they're going to try to dictate things and change everything that I've done around? What can I do legally to prevent this from happening? So the first thing I'm going to tell you, and first things first, is to pre-plan. Pre-plan your funeral arrangements. Call me at 786-253-0211, 786 253 0211. So nous ka parler avec ensemble pour planifier arrangement funérailles. So call me first, and we will talk about all of your options on how you want to go ahead about doing your funeral arrangements. As I mentioned in the first part of the show, we can create an irrevocable clause that famille pas qu'à changer anything on your pre-need arrangements. They can't change anything if you put an irrevocable clause in your pre-need arrangements. So the first things first is to pre-plan. Again, I've told you in the past, you guys can, finance the plan up to 7 years for your cemetery arrangements and 15 years for arrangement funérailles. So again, you can call me, 786-253-0211. I am waiting for your phone call so we can go over this. The next thing that you guys can do is a funeral directive. You can create a legal document to just let the funeral know. It's like a declaration of what you want to do with your remains. After you have transitioned, that funeral directive will let your family know, or your trusted designee know, what exactly do you want to do with your body. Do you want to be buried in the ground? Do you want to be enterré? Do you want to be in the mausoleum? Or do you want to be cremated? So, and doing that can allow for privacy, and it'll allow for your family not to come in and try to change anything. The next thing is you can put it in your will. If this is something that you do not have and you want more information, give me a call. I can put you in touch with an attorney that can assist you with creating a will or a funeral directive so your family cannot change anything in your pre-need arrangements. You can call me again, 786-253-0211. Your next thing is is, like as I mentioned, you can appoint a funeral designee, and you can do that through what's called the 5 wishes. It's kind of like an advance directive, what to do when you are not able to think for yourself. You can also put in there who you would like as your funeral directive or your representative to speak on your behalf in the event that you pass away. By you appointing this person, they will already know, because you guys will already have had that conversation on what exactly do you want at that time for your funeral arrangements. How do you want it executed? Where do you want it done at? On a Saturday, on a Sunday, on a Monday? Do you want it in the morning? Do you want it in the afternoon? Who's allowed to show up to your funeral? Who's not allowed to show up? Because like me, as I mentioned earlier, I don't want just anybody coming to my funeral, or actually to my viewing, to see me, in my, second, but at the actual service itself, by all means, anybody is allowed to come, because it'll be a closed casket at that time. So go ahead, folks, and get yourself an appointee, a representative that will carry out your final wishes for you. Again, you could consult an attorney on creating legal documents to enforce that. The next thing is to communicate again with your loved ones, to let them know what your final wishes are. It's good to talk to your husband, your wife, your children, or if you have that one kid or child in your family that you know that you can trust to carry out your wishes, that will stand up to the rest of your family. Choose them, because they're the ones that's going to make sure that every single thing happens to the T. If you do not call me for pre-need arrangements, which is silly, because you should call me for pre-need arrangements, because if you call me for pre-need arrangements, you're not putting all that burden on that one kid. And you can call me at 786-253-0211. The next thing you can do is you can, you could consult an attorney. Again, that attorney will give you what your options are. You can do a will, you can do a trust, you can do a directive that will allow you to get your wishes carried out, and that attorney will, tell you what your options are. If you don't have one that you feel comfortable enough to talk to, or you just maybe don't know, you can give me a call at 786-253-0211, and I can give you a couple of numbers to a few attorneys that can assist you in helping you carry out your wishes. So again, and what you want to do to take the proper steps to make sure to carry out your wishes is to consult with an attorney. If you work with an attorney, again, they can, not just any attorney. You don't want to get an attorney that might specialize in real estate or specialize in prosecution. You want to get an estate planning attorney or an elder law attorney or elder care attorney, and they can tell you what your options are. They can present to you all the documentation that you're needed in order to, carry out your final wishes. You can also document your wishes if you do not want to consult an attorney. We have what's called the 5 wishes. You can call me for a free guide for that. That can allow you to put all your wishes before you pass away and after you pass away. You can call me at 786-253-0211, 786-253-0211. You can call me and I can give you a free guide. Another thing you could do is, again, you can appoint a funeral agent, or if you have a family member or a friend that will carry out your wishes and will honor your wishes. That's always a great idea, because you've already had a conversation with them. You've already spoken to them. You've already told them what you would like, and they will go ahead and enforce that, and making sure that the funeral home and the funeral director carry out your wishes. And then you can also, again, communicate clearly with your family members, letting them know, listen, this is what I've chosen to do. Please do not change this. I've already pre-planned my funeral arrangements with Kathleen at Caballero Rivero at 786-253-0211. And just in case you try, I've already created an irrevocable clause in my pre-need arrangements that you cannot change anything. So again, you want to do those things. If you have any questions and you'd like to, further explanation on how to go about doing that, vous me relève at 786-253-0211. Again, my name is Kathleen. I work for Caballero Rivero. I service all of Miami-Dade County and parts of Broward County. If, again, you would like to know what your options are, ou ka relem, me parle Creole avec vous-même. I know my Creole's a little bit, but, I can assist you in whatever way you would like. So you were listening to Chat with Kat. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you guys next week. Thank you.